Most of my life has been spent in law enforcement. I was a prosecutor, the chief federal prosecutor in Connecticut, the U.S. attorney, and the attorney general of our state for 20 years. I can tell you no crime is more insidious and pernicious than human trafficking. And no crime is more undetected and unprosecuted than human trafficking. And part of the reason is that it operates in the shadows. It is invisible to most people. And the point of today's event is to highlight legislation that would increase the amount of information that is available about the non-immigrant visa reporting system. This system contains information that the American public should know. And very simply, it is the way to hold accountable not only the employers who exploit human trafficking, but also government officials that fail to apprehend and prosecute it as vigorously and effectively as they should do. The tragic fact of the matter is that the government now makes available to the public only a very small proportion of the data it collects. As a result, human traffickers with little fear of detection can go on with their insidious and pernicious activities. They exploit it, and so do the employers that take advantage of it. And lest anyone think that this crime is victimless, Chandra has a story that is powerful beyond our words, but also talk to American workers whose compensation may well be lower than it should be because they are competing on an unlevel playing field with people brought into this country illegally. I saw it in Connecticut, and it is true throughout the country. The legislation we're introducing today, the Visa Transparency Anti-Trafficking Act, makes it possible for people to fight back against this criminal activity through a public reporting system for non-immigrant visa programs. And this act would require the Secretary of Labor to compile a comprehensive annual report with detailed information about non-immigrant visa applicants and the employers and recruiters. Very often, it's the recruiters who account for a major part of the illegal activity. With the information available from this report, civil society organizations can liberate, in effect, trafficking victims and survivors, but also they and all of us can hold accountable the government agencies that are supposed to be cracking down on illegal trafficking. Right now, the prosecution and apprehension of this criminal activity is all too lax and laggard and lacking. And those lapses have to be corrected. The best disinfectant is the sunlight of public disclosure. And that's a somewhat mangled quote from Justice Brandeis, who sat across the street and who believed strongly that disclosure is the way to prompt public awareness and accountability.
My name is Chandra Wawaruntu, and I'm a human trafficking survivor. I'm a leader and I'm an advocate. Recently, I was appointed by President Barack Obama to be a member of the first U.S. Advisory Council on Human Trafficking. So I want to extend my gratitude to Senator Blumenthal, that's not here, right?
Yes, he is. Right there. He came back.
Sorry. You came back. And then Congresswoman Louise Franco and Congressman James Himes, Ted Deutsch, and David Schweikert.
Very good. Excellent.
I'm sorry, my pronunciation is. I want to thank you of the outstanding leadership in combating human trafficking, and today it's happened because of the legislation that will save people like me. So I also want to thank to the advocacy organization, Polaris, and then Global Workers Justice Alliance, and the Economic Policy Institute for their tireless commitment to end human trafficking. Thank you for joining us today. And human trafficking is the second largest criminal enterprise globally, and this is a violation of human rights, which is a major international concern that has affected my life and the lives of millions men, women, and children around the world. This is what happened with me in 1998. Political turbulence and religious persecution happened in Indonesia, and I lost my job as a manager of international bank representative in Indonesia. So it was hard for me to live in that situation, so I expanded an employment to the United States after I read the newspaper said 6-month seasonal work in a hotel in Chicago. And I have to pay $3,000 for that job. And of course, I am excited because of in the TV, United States is the biggest country, the dreamland, the power of the US dollar is controlling all the economic. So I knew that very well. So I went to the embassy with the paperwork that's provided by the employment agency. I got my visa and I flew to New York City. The fact I didn't work in Chicago, they took my passport and demanded $30,000 from me. And they put me to work as a sex slave in sex industry, New York, Connecticut, up and down Route I-95 without knowing where it was. I escaped and I met someone, actually he was another trafficker, so I was re-trafficked, and they were unorganized crimes. And I escaped again. Law enforcement didn't help me. Consular office didn't help me. It was hard. But finally, I was connected by US Naval to FBI, and law enforcement took the case. Finally, some of my traffickers behind the bar now. So it was a victory of my life that those people stayed in the bar. And I want to talk about this bill. The Visa Transparency Anti-Trafficking Act of 2016 will help millions of people like me who come to the United States seeking economic opportunity and a better life. Many of those who come to the United States for temporary employment fall through the crack and into the hands of dangerous criminals seeking to exploit them. We need to expand the temporary foreign workers database transparency, as there is no data that available. So when this information hidden from the policymakers and advocacy group, people like me are vulnerable to be exploited and trafficked. That is why this bill is so important. And it will help the lawmakers and organizations better track who is requesting and receiving temporary work visas so they can identify trafficking pattern. It would also help improve outreach and education for workers so they can know their rights and where to get help if they fall into the dangerous hands. I believe that strengthening temporary work visa will reduce the percentage of victims and help to end human trafficking. This is an action, and we have to pass this bill, become a law, because of it will be perfect. It will be perfect, and together we can make the better world without human trafficking and modern slavery.